Hello, my name's Kathy Bissell. Welcome to the Golf Show 2.0. Gary Van Sickle, my co-host, and I are here with a very famous person. He became famous for his golf and then for television. Ian Baker-Finch. Ian, you're retiring. I can't believe it.
Yeah, retiring from the mic, Kathy. Gary, good to be with you
Okay.
both. No, I'll never retire. I'm a get out of bed and get stuff done sort of guy. So plenty still left to do.
Do you
It-
have
It's
a particular
it's
plan or where you're going to go to execute your plan?
Well, it's not really a plan so much as it is just filling in the time with all of the things I want to do.
Okay.
I've been 30 years doing the television,
Yes.
15 years, as Gary knows, before that playing. And I'd like to do some more design work. I certainly want to spend more time traveling with Jenny and seeing the kids, and some more time in Australia. Plenty of things to fill the palate.
when I saw the announcement that you're retiring, Ian, it said you'd been in TV for 30 years, and I thought, 30 years? That's the fastest 30 years ever. What
That's what I thought.
what happened?
Yeah,
How
it's
did it go
crazy,
so
isn't it?
fast?
That it goes, it flies by, right?
Yes.
It does.
From one week to the next, it rolls through. Well, you have a book out. I'm sorry, the title of it escapes
To
me,
hell
but
and back.
to hell and back. Okay, Ian Baker. Thank you. Very good. He brings his own own
There
things.
you go. You brought the product. Excellent.
That's
That's
right.
also the title of. You probably wouldn't know him, Audie Murphy. He was a American soldier in World War II, and uh, he won. I think he won the Congressional Medal of Honor, and because of
Mhm.
that, they put him in some movies, and he couldn't really act, but it didn't. He had a nice career doing that. So it's a very famous title, and you just wouldn't associate that with a golfer necessarily. But we all know how maddening the game is. Tell us why you decided to do the book.
Well, the title had nothing to do with me. If it had been my choice, it would have been To Heaven and Back.
Oh,
So
Excellent.
that's the difference. It's a
yes.
catchy title, and it really just refers to what everybody wants to know, is what happened to me when I was playing so well, and then 4 years later I couldn't break an egg. So anyway, it's more the early days of how I got to be a professional golfer, and how I got to play in the Open Championship, and then how I got to win it. And then really the couple of years where I struggled and couldn't get off the struggle bus, and decided to do television while I was getting some injuries seen to at the end of '96, and was offered the job to continue on with the TV. So that was the sliding door moment. Basically, it was having a bad Open Championship in 1997, and moving into TV. So To Hell and Back really was more that I went through hell for a couple of years, I guess, trying to figure it all out, and then how I've had the last 30 years in broadcasting. It's been a blessing.
Well, what's your favorite moment from either ABC or CBS? Can you remember
Oh,
any particular hysterical happening that
what's
all the cameras
what's
broke or something?
what's your favorite moment over the last 30 years? It's
Oh
pretty
no,
hard, right?
sorry.
There you
It's pretty
go.
hard to pick out one, as you know,
Turnabout's
Gary.
fair play. Yeah,
It
There's
tell
must
us
be.
there's a
about your
lot.
favorite. It's like picking your favorite child.
Exactly. And both my daughters think that they are, so I dare not say the wrong one. Um,
Right.
the the favorite moment, to be honest, would be this year's Masters.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was the most emotional Masters of all time, the best Masters of all time, even surpassing Tiger's phenomenal victory in 2019. It was an emotional roller coaster, which Rory McIlroy tends to do to us, as you know. Um, and I think my buddy Rick Folio, who sits beside me on the tower, he and I were high-fiving each other and having such a great time calling that. We were just so immersed in the tournament and in the challenge and in what Rory was facing, and how he overcame the battle of 11 years without a major, and then finally winning that Grand Slam, the sixth man to do so and the first European. So all of that just culminated to me in the most amazing finale. And it was really a part of uh, Jim Nance called me recently and said, "Hey, you got to talk to the boss at CBS. You got to sign a long-term deal. That was the best you've ever been on TV." And I didn't have the heart to tell him at that time that I was actually thinking of retiring, and spending my time doing other things. But I feel blessed to have been a part of all of that, Kathy, Gary, all of those great calls throughout, or great tournaments, not necessarily great calls. I'm not being braggadocious here in saying that, but Adam Scott in 2013, his win at the Masters, from down under to on top of the world, those sorts of things. Whistling Straits 15 with Jason Day, they were memorable moments because they were two good Aussie mates winning their first major. Lots of memorable times, really, just great fun, both in Australia and here in the US, over in the UK at the Open Championships. So many fond memories.
I still get goosebumps every time I see that picture of Adam Scott when he won that iconic photo. Just thinking about that picture gives me goosebumps. It was such a great week, such a great moment, and such a great photograph.
Yeah, it was amazing. Even the 18th hole, before he had won, holding that putt, come on Aussie, and Mark Leishman, his buddy and playing partner that day, cheering him on and clapping for him. And then, of course, the hug and the tears with his dad, Phil, and his caddy, Stevie Williams. Just so many memorable times there back in 2013. To be the first Australian to win after so many close calls over the years, it was very special.
Well, speaking of Steve Williams, or Stevie, I guess as everybody calls him, many people may not know that you've had a long and happy relationship with Steve, and it kind of is woven throughout your book, with all different kinds of tales of this, that, and the other thing. And most of us in the States think of Steve as being the guy who puts his hand up in front of cameras and stuff to keep them away from Tiger. So
yeah, he didn't get a great reputation doing that, but it's exactly what Tiger needed. Yeah. Tiger needed someone tough by his side, not someone in the media tent telling stories. He needed someone be there to have his back, Yeah. And he caddied for Peter Thompson a little bit. He caddied for Mike Clayton, Roger Davis, a few other Aussie boys. But he caddied for me for 2 years. My first couple of years over in on the European tour were with Wobbly, we used to call him, Philip Morby, who won some majors alongside Ian Woosnam and Olafable. Okay. So he became a well-known caddy. He was with me for 2 years. And then Steve Williams took over for a couple of years. And we've been buddies ever since. And ironically, or coincidentally, he's got a book out at the moment as well with his major championships with Tiger. He and Evan Priest have written a book. Wow. Tiger and Me, I think it is, or something like that. Great stories of all of the majors. So he's been a fantastic friend and good friend of Jenny's and mine and the kids for 40 years.
Were you at all reticent to go back over the highs and lows of your career when you were going back to do this book? Was it transformative, or was it a nuisance, or did you not want to go back? What did it feel like doing the research or working with your co-author, Will?
Jeff Saunders wrote the book. Jeff's written a couple of books, one on Peter Thompson and one on Sir Bob Charles. And he came to me about 3 or 4 years ago and said, hey, listen, he'd written to me before and said, it's time to do the book. And I said, look, I've had so many offers over the years to do the book. I really don't want to do a book. There's no big deal. Ian Baker-Finch, who cares? No one knows. So he said, no, you really need to do it. You need to do it for your family, for your friends, for perpetuity, for your grandkids to look back on and say, oh, that was Grandpa, he was pretty good. So we decided to do it. And he wrote a couple of chapters first, one about being the Daiwa experiment back in the early 90s. And I was impressed with his research and what he'd done. And then another one on early years and things that Peter Thompson was a great role model for me and mentor and had told Jeff about me. So I said, okay, let's do it. And we went off, and basically Jeff's written the book. It's a wonderful story. It's really, I'm a subject of the story, or I'm involved in the story, really. When you read the book, it's not a typical autobiography that's a biography that someone's been given someone's given the okay to do, authorized. It's more about an era in golf that we would both so recognize because it's our era and the great era. And I'm in the middle of it with all my contemporaries and everything that happened through that time. Yes, I'm the subject of it, but the read itself, to me, when I've read it 7 or 8 times. It's like a novel. If you don't know the characters in there, you'd still enjoy the read. And everyone that's read it so far, it's been released in Australia for a couple of months now. And it's a coincidence that the release date in the US is the 5th of August. Has nothing to do with my retirement. There's zero linkage between the book coming out. I'm not promoting the book on any other network or any other form. It's just, I'm retiring, period. Yes, I'm a subject of a book that's coming out, period. But I can honestly say I'm very proud of what Jeff's done. And the many hours, Gary, to point of your question, I was hesitant, hence the 30 years before doing it. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. And all of the hours spent, we'd meet in the coffee shop in the morning and spend a couple of hours with tapes. We'd go play golf, we'd come back another day and do another couple of hours on tape. And he went away and wrote the story. So there's a lot more things we had in it originally. They've cut 35,000 words out of the original transcript.
Oh my goodness.
That's what happens with books, that to sell it, a lot of it was very Australian centric, obviously coming from Australia in my early days there. A lot of it European tour centric, Japanese tour centric. So there was a lot of extra stuff that they thought, if we're going to sell this book worldwide, we need to trim it down and make it a little bit more presentable to everybody. So I could write another book, or we could write another book on all of the other stuff that isn't in this one.
Yeah, well, the same is true for magazine and newspaper stories. If you write a 30-inch story, you put everything in there you wanted, but when the editor cuts 5 inches out of it, it's almost always better. You hate to say it, you hate to admit it, but it's almost always better. So
the sad thing for you, Gary, and you know this so well over the decades you've been doing a great job with the journalism, you don't write the headline either. And
right.
Sometimes the journalist gets the flack for the headline if it's not such a positive story. I mean, the players all love you when you say something nice, but when you say something bad, they're quick to criticize. And that's what happens.
I remember that tabloid headline over in the UK, I think it was at St. Andrews. Why we all hate Nasty Nick, Scott Hoke. Scott Hoke didn't say any such thing in the story, but that was a headline, and that's the way it goes.
Well, exactly.
As it turns out, the only British Open I attended, Gary's attended a bunch of, was the 1984. I'm sorry, British Open. It was 1984 at St. Andrews. And I remember the consternation of all of the people in the media center because they didn't know you. They didn't know your golf game. They didn't know anything about you. And for 3 days, it was, who is Ian Baker-Finch and why is he leading the Open? And it was, that was kind of the story of the week. But
it was.
It was your first Open? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was 23 at my first Open. Yeah.
I mean, to get that far and not have any kind of a collapse was really astonishing looking back on it, because most people, their first time leading a major championship, they don't get through to the end. You've got to take the attempt 2 or 3 or 4 times before you realize you can still breathe when you're on the leaderboard, is at least what I've gathered from watching everyone who goes through that.
Yeah, it was a great moment. And it was really, my goal in life early on was to be a golf professional, and I achieved that. Then it was to be a good player, but I was happy. I just wanted to be a club professional that could play occasionally and maybe even one day play in a British Open, because that's what my great mentor and idol, Peter Thompson, had done so well in winning 5 times.
Yes.
And then in doing that in 84, I had been playing well. I'd won at home. I went back and won a few more times over the next 12 months at home. And that really made me realize that, hey, I can do this. Maybe I should be playing internationally. Maybe I should go overseas and compete. So it was the start of my then refigured and rejuvenated goal of winning the Open Championship. And I was always goal oriented, and I wrote my goals down. And for every goal, you've got 10 steps, and for every step, you got 10 steps to that step. And I eventually achieved it. So but that was a memorable time. Tomo took me around. We had 4 days in a row where I had Kel Nagle, who'd won in 1960 at the Centenary Open, and Peter Thompson, who'd won 5 times. And Graham Marsh was another great idol of mine, fantastic player, about 20 years older than me, that was just a pro's pro. We played 4 rounds, practice rounds together. And that's a nice chapter in the book, actually. It tells a lot of stories.
And that was at St. Andrews, so you knew how to play the course, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And then the next time in 1990, I was in the last group with Nick Faldo. So both times I played St. Andrews, 84 and 90, I was in that last group. In the last group on the Saturday in 1984 with Nick Faldo, and then in the last group with Nick Faldo in 1990, where he went on to win. And watching him win gave me the belief that I could go do it in similar fashion the next year, which I was fortunate enough to do.
You did.
Well, those close calls set you up for success, really.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. And it, as you said, Kathy, sometimes you get the opportunity, and a lot of players don't. You have a great career, and you might play. If you played for 20 years, great golf, you'd have 80 majors, right? So to win one or more, you don't have a lot of chances. I had maybe 10 years of playing in them to have a chance a few times. At the Masters, I had a chance. I was in the second last group a couple of times. So it's nice to get it done. A lot of great players don't, as we've seen over the years.
What I thought was interesting is you talked about, aside from the fact that you've always been known as a great putter, that you struggled learning how to putt the greens at Augusta National. Can you explain that to us?
Oh, they're just so fast. They're fast and sloping. They're not really designed to be running 14 on the stimp meter.
Right.
And I was always a bowled putter because I'd grown up on Bermuda. And when I grew up, greens were, there was no such thing as a stimp meter, by the way. And the greens were cut Wednesday mornings and Saturday mornings, twice a week. And most times we played, they were rolling about 5 or 6, and you learnt to hit them firm. My hands were way forward in a forward press, and I used to bash my putts. So when I first went to Augusta, it was so hard to see a 4-foot putt with 6 inches of break. It was just you never hit it outside the hole. So although I was a good putter, I had too many 3 putts at Augusta National, and that was the reason I never won there. I had a chance a couple of times, but I 3-putted from 10 to 15 feet a lot because I was being aggressive on the first one and then missed the comebacker. That's just the way it was,
Sure.
All right.
Was there anything from 30 years in the TV booth, was there anything you learned that you kind of wish you'd known when you were a player that would have helped you?
Oh, yeah. We're only watching the players that are playing great on TV. Yeah. We're only watching those lead 5 or 10, right? We're not seeing the guys that are struggling. You might see it a little bit Friday afternoons on cable. But I've learned that I should have been kinder to myself. And over the years, I have done that, and I've learned that. And I think that's an age thing too, don't you think? That you become a little more generous with yourself as you get older.
I think so.
People generally become better people when they get older through the experiences that they've faced. And I should have been kinder to myself. I think I tried to be too good. I tried to improve too much. I tried to hit it further. I tried so many different things, and I should have just been comfortable being a top 25 or top 50 player in the world, whatever I was through the 80s, rather than thinking all the time I had to play like the Open champion. And you don't always play like the Open champion.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many major champions have said exactly that. I remember Payne Stewart saying that once. He spent the next year trying to play. You get introduced on the tee every time as the U.S. Open champion or the Open champion, in your case, and that's right there. It's in your face, and you feel like you have to play to that level, and that's not how golf is.
No, and if you just continued, and I've given this advice to many players since, just play the way you have played. I'm not saying you can't go win the next major or that you won't win another one, but don't expect every day you play that people are expecting you to play like you did that day. I don't go out and shoot 29 on the front 9 every time I play, so don't expect to do it. And I should have been a little kinder to myself.
Well, it's hard to do that in the moment because you're so you remember the great round you had, and it's like average golfers. You remember the great shot, and so you always underclub yourself thinking that every shot you hit is going to be a great shot, and it isn't.
Yeah, that's true. And but that one great shot brings you back, doesn't it? It makes
Yes,
you,
it
it
does.
gives you belief, gives you that little spark of, hey, I can do that. Let's keep doing that. And isn't it funny? Last week we had a player shot 60. Adam Svensson shot 60 the first day, 11 under par in Minneapolis. He shot 75 the next day. The same player, in great
Yes.
form, playing really nicely, shot 15 shots worse. So if the best players in the world can do that, we should be able to cut ourselves some slack and expect it ourselves.
And yet I'm still chasing it and wondering what's wrong with me.
Me too. Don't worry, I am too. I'm heading out to play again. I shot 71 on Tuesday, and I shot 77 yesterday. I was so pissed off with the way I played. I can't wait to get back to the range this morning and figure it out.
Now, when you enter full retirement to do other things that you want to do, what other than you're going to do some architecture,
Mm.
you do some travel, spend
Well,
I guess a lot of time with your wife, who has been through with you on this whole journey. The two of
yes,
you have been kind of a pair the whole way, and I gathered
yes,
you wouldn't have made it without her sometimes.
yes, correct. She's been my partner through it all. She made the hotel room like home, and raised the kids while I was away playing. And then first starting out in TV, it was 5 days a week. We had to get out there Tuesday night. So I was gone a lot. And she's done a fantastic job. And now it's time to spend some time with her. And we'd love to play golf. We spent 20 days in New Zealand in March, and we played golf every day. Traveled around, had a wonderful time. I'd like to do that again next March and continue to spend time out in Toscana in the Palm Desert, Indian Wells area in season. We've been out there for 20 years as I've worked with CBS, got some good friends out there we play with and spend time with. So there's lots of that. And then I'm on the board of the Australian PGA Tour and Australian PGA, which is kind of like my charity in a way. I've always been passionate about it. Tomo was PGA president for about 2 decades. And I've always wanted to do what I can and give back and bring a bit more of a worldly view to the Australian PGA and Tour. And we're doing a really good job there. That tour is doing nicely. So I'll continue doing that for as long as they'll have me. So I'm pretty busy.
I bet they'll keep you for a long time because you've helped out a lot of people that way. So, Ian, this week you go where?
I go to the Wyndham Championship. It's in
Okay.
Greensboro, North Carolina, Sedgefield Country Club, and that's my last event and CBS's last event of the season.
Well, we look forward to seeing you back in the States doing something, or electronically from Australia. I assume you're going to keep a home in both places, or certainly I know you've got one in Australia.
Well, home's here. We've been here 25 years. My daughters both live here and married young American men, which we love. They're part of the family. Haley has 2 little girls, and Laura's pregnant with her first. So we've got 3 grandkids here. So it's hard to drag Nana away too often. But we get back for 2 months, October, November, December in that period, and then again February, March to Australia. So we're sort of 4 months there and 8 months here.
Okay.
I've been trying to analyze what makes a good golf broadcaster. And if you just look at a transcript of the things that everybody says during a broadcast, you can just look at the words and kind of go, well, that's not so hard. But you have to say it the same thing. I think almost as important as having a pleasant personality and a pleasant sounding voice and sounding likable. And you on all 3 of those, you're an A+. I don't know. I'm not going to feel right when I don't hear your tones on a telecast, because you've been that calming, soothing voice all these years in the tower, and it's been a pleasure listening to you talk. Even now, you've just got that. Your voice is wonderful.
I appreciate that, Gary. It's really one of the first things I learned when I went back home in '96 and started doing this in Australia. I had no training. I was a golf pro. That's all I'd ever wanted to be. And a lot of the stage managers, the people that run the tower, that run the booth, make sure everything's smooth. they helped me the most. And the first guy on the first week said, treat the camera like it's your mum or your wife or someone you love, and treat the audience like they're your buddies that you're sitting around on the couch in the living room just talking golf.
Great
And
advice.
it was the best advice, because at the end of the day, we're entertaining. Obviously, I get up for the big moments and, bring a bit of energy and, just something spontaneous. Nothing's scripted, as you know. When you go on those shows, I'm watching the same thing that you are watching at the same time. Sure, there's that 7-second delay where it goes to the tower and goes to New York and then back down from the satellite to your TV, but it's essentially live. And you just have to be spontaneous, and you have to trust yourself. And I think once I learned to just be me, I think I became a better broadcaster. You can't be all things to all people. And sometimes you have to let go of the stupid things you've just said, or the incorrect things at times that you say, right? You can't be right all the time.
It's going to happen.
I'm talking to my friends on the couch on the weekends, and that's how I've always tried to be.
I remember Brandel Chambly early on was joking about off camera about Shigeki Maruyama, and he was saying "marry you mama," and he said that a couple of times. And somebody said, "Brandel, don't do that because you're going to say that on the air now." And of course, eventually he did, but no one remembered that.
I know. I a couple of times I said marijuana.
No.
And I said, that's Shigeki Marijuana, and we're at the Genesis. And I said, he's legal here now, just to sort of make a bit of fun of what I'd said. David said the same thing one time, and he said, that's Shigeki Marijuana. Oh, and he's really smoked that one.
Well, it's been 30 years of broadcast. It's been a delight. It was a pleasure to watch you play in the 80s and 90s. I was lucky enough to write some stories about you then. And thank you for preserving history and putting this book out to hell and back with your co-author, Jeff. I apologize for misidentifying him. I just wrote a story on Jay Delsing, and his co-author was Will. So I got that mixed up, but you preserved history, and you described the event. You enabled all your family and anybody who likes golf to read your book and get the sense of what it was like during your career. And, that's pretty valuable stuff. So Ian Baker-Finch, thanks for everything.
Thank you for everything, Gary. Thanks a lot for what you've done. And Kathy, you too. It's been a long time. Appreciate being with you.
Thank you.